Apex Legends is in a bit of a rough patch at the moment, and as players get more and more tired of the new updates, the nostalgia starts kicking in and people wish they could go back to how it was before. And while this probably isn't the best solution to the problems in the game at the moment, Apex is actually bringing things back that players used to love, and hopefully this time they're going to work out just fine. And we're going to explore those in today's video, starting with what we know about arenas and why when it returns they're going to have to change quite a few things to make sure this time it works. So let me tell you a little story about arenas in Apex Legends. Arenas was added to the game in Season 9 as a new way to play Apex, a 3v3 round-based mode where at the start of the game you'd spend currency to buy your loadout from weapons to health items and abilities, and a majority of the player base can agree that the mode itself was fun, and the Apex developers seem to think so too, because at the time there were leaks of them expanding arenas and even giving it its own battle pass. That doesn't sound too crazy these days when you look at the state of the current battle pass in Apex, but that's right, there was code in the file for a battle pass that was unique to arenas. They definitely had big plans for this new mode that also teased Ash as a new legend in Apex, who many fans know from Titanfall, that would later appear as the Season 11 legend. And the devs even had more changes to arenas that were planned, like a new 4v4 and 5v5 arena mode, and new upgrades that you could buy that would benefit your team, like the ability to force the final ring to close closer to your spawn, or even start the round with a fully charged ult. But we all know the story of arenas, and the reality is it never received any updates. They gave us the ranked arenas mode in Season 10 for players to grind, but as far as actual updates to arenas, there was nothing. And the lack of updates caused the arena's player count to slowly fall off, which had a drastic effect on the health of the ranked mode. Because less players were playing the game, you'd very rarely be placed into a ranked match with other players that were the same rank as you, which made for really bad player experiences when you were going against players 2 or 3 complete ranks above you. It's never fun when you're playing a ranked mode with players that aren't even the same rank as you. And if you thought that was a bad ecosystem for the arenas game mode, well, players decided to exploit this and make things 10 times worse. A lot of high-ranked arena players begun queuing in the less populated servers to get matched against super low-ranked players every single match. These players would literally spend all day doing this, crushing on bronze players to maintain their rank status. And it got to the point where so many of the arena preds were doing this that it actually came out that half of all the arena pred players were cheating in some way. It sounds hard to believe, but it's true. 50% of the top ranked players in arenas were literally exploiting the game or cheating. Because it wasn't only exploiting new players that was notorious in arenas, the cheating scene was wild as well. Cheaters would pretty much use arenas as a testing ground for cheats, and more often than not, they'd be free to do so for weeks without getting banned. And as time went on, the developers seemingly started caring less and less about arenas and kind of let the thing die off, infested with cheaters. Hackers literally begun queuing AFK bots into arena lobbies so they could farm their way up the ranks, which they'd actually do at a cost to boost other players' accounts and make a profit off of this. So towards the end of arena's lifespan, you could queue into a game and there'd be an 80% chance that you were against a cheater, bots, or someone ranked way higher than you. It absolutely sucked, but why did players even care this much about cheating in arenas? Sure, the ranked badges were cool, but most likely it was to get their hands on the most difficult badge in Apex, the 100 arena wins badge, which required you to win 100 arena games in a row. As you can tell, having this arena badge was well desired, but its reputation is kind of tarnished now, since most players who have this probably cheated for it. And then fast forward to Season 16, arenas was terminated from Apex Legends. The devs said, that's it, we're getting rid of this thing, and removed it completely from the game. So since Season 16, nobody has been able to play a single game of arenas. But for those of you that loved arenas, things are looking up for you, because the developers did confirm that arenas is on its way back. So it turns out in an interview, the design director at Respawn even gave us a little bit of a schedule for arena's potential return, saying it'll potentially come back in the next 12 to 24 months. And this interview took place in February of 2024, so the devs are planning to try and bring arenas to the game sometime sometime in 2025. He said it's definitely something on their roadmap, and this time the developers have hindsight and they can assess why arenas failed the first time, and many of the reasons are what we talked about in this video. The lack of updates caused the player count to drop, which then spiraled into all of the issues around ranked matchmaking. So as long as the developers take a little more care with arenas, maybe add some updates to spice it up every now and then, and they do want to make it a core experience of Apex rather than taking the players away from the usual battle royale, they want to integrate it into how you play Apex rather than feeling like its own separate game. Of course, one of the best ways arenas can succeed again is if they actually monitor the players playing it and stop cheaters and people exploiting the matchmaking ahead of time. So the earliest we could expect arenas technically would be in December this year, looking at their potential timeline, but I think realistically it might take a little longer before it comes back. But to keep the spirits high, something else is coming back in December, and that will be the Winter Express game mode. A leak from Ritz King told us that the Winter Express game mode will be coming back to Apex this time with a twist. Now, the train game mode is some of the Apex players' favorite game mode in Apex, and it does put you in that Christmas spirit. You really know Christmas is coming up when the Winter Express mode hits Apex, and he says this time it's with a twist. Now, that's as much information as I have. I have no clue what twist this will be, but let's hope it's something interesting. Or maybe they could patch the glitch where Loba could always win the game by hiding inside this little box. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Winter Express was kind of ruined, a little bit like arenas, because of one glitch that would allow Loba to use her bracelet to teleport inside of this crate on the main objective of the train, meaning that the game would never end until the other players just gave up and allowed you to capture the objective. So Respawn, please fix that one. Now, as much as players like things coming back to Apex, I think the devs really do like to move on and try and innovate the game and try something new to see if it sticks. And it looks like something like that is on the horizon, because we did get a leak very recently about a huge change to the Apex experience with regards to the looting system, and there was a bunch of different leaks shared that the devs are currently testing a new way of having weapon loadouts in Battle Royale where you choose your weapons ahead of time rather than looting them in game, and you'd potentially no longer have to loot your attachments in game. They'd upgrade throughout the match if you dealt more damage or things like that. And while this is a very fresh leak and a lot of the information will not be accurate, it turns out iLoot Games did say that from an inside source he has heard something along the lines of a new looting system and this new weapon loadout system. Now, he's still yet to share some of the full details, but iLoot Games has been pretty much spot on with all of the info he shared, so the fact that he's also heard things to do with these changes makes me very intrigued to see how this turns out. So I thought I'd mention that to keep you updated and keep an ear out for some very big potential changes to the gameplay side of Apex, but I'm sure this is quite a way from releasing and it won't be till next year. But there you go. Do you want arenas to come back to the game, and what do you think needs to happen with Apex to make it better again? After hearing the whole story of arenas, do you think we should have it in the game, or do you think it's just disaster waiting to happen? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe.